so many dead. Infected and non-infected alike.
That's why our home is so precious.
I'm so excited to talk to both of y'all. The first question, as I'm watching this movie and in the process of having my mind blown, first question that popped in my head, Rafe, how long did we spend in the makeup chair every day for that look, my man?
Well, it wasn't so long. I'm covered in a version of iodine, I say. And it was this sort of makeup substance that looked like iodine. And I had one or two lovely ladies applying this to me, and it wasn't too painful. I've had worse experiences. Although sometimes it was applied with a sponge, which was often in cold water. So in the morning, when you're all sort of vulnerable and fragile, and this cold thing is put on you. But apart from that, it was okay.
Mm-hmm.
It was, and they did a great job too. The continuity with all that stuff was very well done.
I love getting to talk to the both of y'all together, Jodie, because there's such a balance to this movie. It's very heavy subject matter, but when we meet Rafe's character, there's a little bit of levity, and when we see you, there's so much depth to what's going on. There's the affliction side of you, there's the mom side, but there's also this badass that has survived in this post-apocalyptic world for so long. How do you go about playing a character that complex?
Gosh, I guess you try and take each moment as it comes. You're right, there are so many facets to Isla, and I think there's something about Spike on reflection is that I think she can sense that he still believes in her and hasn't given up on her. Whereas I think, she's quite isolated from the community on the island. Her husband doesn't really know what to do with her, and I think but I think she sensed that her son is still very much connected to her, and which gives her a real sense of belonging and a kind of willingness to move forward. But it was beautiful to find all those moments. I knew it was going to be kind of tricky in playing an illness, that it felt real and nuanced, and because she goes on such a journey, and then to find that dynamic with Alfie where he's often having to kind of lead and take charge and comfort and all of those things. But it was and also find the levity. It's something she's really always trying to encourage from him, is to take hold of his kind of silliness and playfulness and joy, and not lose that in spite of everything that's going on. So it was nice to find that as well.
You mentioned silliness and joy, and that's the words that I hear from a lot of actors when they talk about working with Danny Boyle. So can y'all share your experience of what makes him such a unique director on set?
He's the best. He's
very nurturing. He's very positive. Yeah. His whole orientation as a man is to be very connected, very present with you, look you in the eye, a genuine enthusiasm. A director's energy is crucial to make you feel ready and prepared, and you're aligned to start. And Danny just has this wonderful nurturing.
There's a sensitivity to him as well. And he's not scared to show you those parts of himself. I think they live very close to the surface. So to have a director who's not scared to show his vulnerability and kind of share that with you is it's very rare, I would say.
So we have this veteran presence. It's leading everybody on set, but then we have this newcomer, Alfie. What was he like to work with? Because he's incredible in the film, and he's such a joy to talk to in real life.
Yeah, he's brilliant. I mean, it was great. We got to meet, we all got to meet each other like 2 weeks before we started shooting, and sit around a table with Danny and Alex and go through script and get up on our feet and, kind of act things out, and just to get to know each other, get familiar, establish dynamics. But it was always like very clear from the beginning that he was prepared. He had his very clear instincts. He wasn't scared to ask questions. He wasn't scared to share what he thought about what he wanted to do and what he thought about a scene, which is beautiful to see in such a young person, at such an early stage. And he was in every scene every single day. Like the undertaking for him was massive, but he just ran at it.
He's just a lovely natural presence. He just is so easy, Osney, on set. I mean, you worked with him many, many days, but I was struck by his poise, his openness. It was
Always listening.
always listening.
Yeah.
A lovely openness, which is very moving to be that open.
The set when we meet Rafe's character, we see kind of where he's hanging out. There's this sort of the Bone Temple, if you will. What was that set like to work with? Is that
Incredible.
mostly practical? Is there some CGI? Is it
No,
really
no
looking
CGI?
like it does?
No, none, no CGI. It was entirely practical. Entirely.
Really?
Yeah.
And we kind of we got to the Bone Temple. We shot chronologically for a lot of it. So by the time we got to the Bone Temple, you know, there's been so much talk about this figure of Kelson and the temple, and then we got there at a moment where, as characters, we were, you know, the characters are kind of so exhausted and so ready to be at that moment. And I think Alfie and I were also so ready to kind of be led by Kelson and Rafe, and yeah, it was so amazing to see what the art department had done. And for a set that was kind of this dedication to the dead, it felt incredibly alive. And we were on night shoots there as well. So you've got the kind of moon and the river, and there was this like constant wind chime. There was wind chimes of the bones. So it was it's really magical.
Lastly, for you, Jodie, that there's a sequence in a train car that is one of the most intense that I can remember seeing in a movie. What was that filming experience like for you?
It was amazing. I mean, I honestly, I was wanting to be there for Celie as much as possible. Celie plays the pregnant and infected in that scene, and we shot that over a couple of days, and it's a really profound moment within the film. You know, the kind of any kind of barriers or notions of us and them are completely stripped away. It was a kind of beautiful moment for Isla in a way of like kind of coming back into reality, because Danny and I spoke about this kind of primal scream that she hears, that she recognizes, that's familiar to her, and that's why she kind of walks right into the line of it. But it's one of my favorite moments in the film, and I'm interested to see where how that transpires, you know, going forward for the remainder too.
You know, I feel he's a bit young.
He's ready, Chin.
7, 6, 11, 5.
Once you walk onto that mainland, there's no rescues.
Guys, I'm so excited to talk to both of you. Alfie, I want to start with you, man. What was it like being on set with that guy to your right? What was the dynamic between you two when y'all were making this incredible film?
I'm so lucky to work with this guy, because, you know, he's absolutely amazing. He cared for us and he guided us, gave us so much advice and so many tips, and yeah, I'm so lucky.
What was like the biggest piece of advice that Aaron gave you throughout making the movie? Was it just like a little tip? Was it, hey, do this, don't do that? Or was it just like joking around?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was just getting ready for a scene. You know, he was there and he helped us kind of get psyched up for it, and he's fantastic. He's great.
Honestly, I don't need to give tips to this guy. He's so naturally talented, and he came to work every day with such great energy and focus and good, thoughtful, you know, thought-provoking questions. And yeah, it was tremendous to watch. I'm very proud of him because he's fantastic in this movie.
You both are amazing, and it seems like y'all played off each other so well. So, Aaron, I'm curious for you. Wait, can you explain the relationship between you and Spike in the movie? Kind of set the table for us.
I play Spike's father, and the beginning of the movie, he's taking his son out for this first time on the mainland to help teach him how to survive and navigate his way through this sort of post-apocalyptic world. And he wants to make him a killer. You know, I guess, you know, this community has survived by having these sort of certain roles. And so I guess he's trying to install that onto his son, and it's sort of a moment of sort of a growing up kind of moment, right? And but he's putting a lot of pressure on his son, and maybe projecting maybe a bit too much of his own fear and anxiety. It's
tough on him. Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of fear and anxiety to be had in this world. I mean, look, I'm in my 40s and I was terrified watching this movie. So, Alfie, I'm curious for you. There's a sequence in a train car, in an abandoned train, and that was so intense. What was it like being on set for that? Like, was that a scary day to film?
That was probably the most intense scene I've probably ever did. When I was being chased by one of the infected, I was having to shut doors behind us, and yeah, it was crazy, you know? It was so crazy, and yeah, it was fun as well. It got me adrenaline pumping, and yeah, I loved it.
Yeah, you know, when you hear actors talk about working with a director like Danny Boyle, they mention fun and energetic and exciting. So, like, it's kind of a dichotomy from the movie and what we're seeing on screen. But, Aaron, can you kind of walk us through what it's like to work with a director like that?
Yeah, I mean, you're so lucky and fortunate when you're in the hands of someone like Danny Boyle, who's had years of experience and is a filmmaker that's not afraid to make bold swings. I mean, we were shooting this thing on iPhones, and everything felt new and fresh, and they were building new rigs for these cameras, and everything felt innovative, and it was exciting for the crew as well. It just trickles down. He's got this incredible enthusiasm. He gives you a space to be able to play and be creative and experiment, and he was fantastic and brilliant with Alfie. And yeah, you're in the best of hands.
All right, so I want to talk about weaponry in this movie because y'all are going back to the basics. We're going back to medieval times. We got some bow and arrows. Who's the better archer between the two of you? Wow. Yeah,
Alfie had some good 2 months training and of archery when I stepped on. He was hitting bullseyes from way far back. I was like really impressed. He got so good, so good.
Actually, I love doing archery now, so I still do it. I still do it now, even after the film's finished. You know, it's fun, and I've got really good at it.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun, and training together was great fun because we had competitive games and like
but I mean,
and also doing ones when they were moving as well. Do you remember that? The stunt room.
Well, we were doing like different techniques and stuff for what Spike and Jamie get up to for their training courses, and you know, hiding behind walls, jumping over things. So
you're not just sort of, that's one thing, you learn how to stand and take a shot from standing, but to start putting it into performance and action and jumping through things, rolling around the ground behind trees, that creates a different atmosphere, you know. And but yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's one of the real electric scenes in the movie is when we're going into the mainland and we're going to look for the first kill, right? You want to get that first kill on your belt. What was that experience like for you, Alfie, filming that scene where it's like it all comes down to this moment? And like y'all were talking about, this isn't just like a still target. This thing's moving and coming towards you.
You know, it's very tense for Spike, and it's his first kill, a lot of pressure on him. You know, Jamie's counting on Spike to get this, and when I read the script, you know, I was very interested to do this scene because it looked so intense and interesting, and
it's just it's such a cool movie. And again, we're revisiting this world that we met, you know, in a previous generation. It feels like. Aaron, do you remember the first time you saw 28 Days Later and what that experience was like for you?
Yeah, I think I was, you know, I wasn't old enough to see it in the cinema, but I remember the impact it had on in British film, and I remember very clearly how visceral the scene of Killian walking through the streets of London was, and that being really kept an imprint in my mind. It was a movie you kind of went back to watch a few times over the years, and then watching it again for the preparation of this, I didn't realize how much Brendan Gleeson's father-daughter story really hit me hard, because I'm a father of 4 girls, and you just put yourself, you know, these movies, you can't help but put yourself in these characters' situation and kind of go, oh, what it would be like to be going through that. And so they're really quite emotional. They really hit you deep.
The film's great, and Alfie, I mean, it seems like we might have a new trilogy on our hands here. So I guess you got to keep that archery up, right? You got to keep shooting the bow and arrow.
Yeah,
we don't know what's happening.
Better and better. Yeah. Olympic soon.
Look at what's in front of you.
Alex, I saw an interview where you mentioned Danny is the least neurotic director that you've ever worked with. Can you explain to me?
The least neurotic. Yeah. well, you are. I mean, Do you need me to explain why?
No.
I would love to hear the answer and really just speak about the collaboration between you two and maybe how it's evolved over time.
I'll say why. Partly just to embarrass him.
Yeah.
I think a lot of directors are terrified of writers, and they feel threatened by them and they feel undermined by them. They don't want the writers to come anywhere near the crew. They don't want the writers to come particularly anywhere near the actors, because they want the actors to look at them in a particular kind of reverential way and to sort of hang off their every word and gesture. And because a lot of the reasons people are attracted to film directing is because they have a sense of their own omniscience, which really just means they're narcissists. And and Danny, it's I mean, it's just true. And Danny isn't like that. And right from the beginning, Danny would say, yeah, we're doing an audition. This was 28 days later, first film I ever worked on. We're doing an audition, so you better be there at 10 o'clock on Tuesday. Got a bunch of people coming in to read for Jim or something like that. Then the rehearsals would happen and Danny would say, well, we start rehearsing on Wednesday, so see you then. And then in the edit, yeah, no, we've got a new cut. And it would be like on a Friday and we'd discuss it and I'd take home a VHS tape. And now all I can tell you is the next director I worked with was appalled. When I turned up in the rehearsals, like, right, let's rehearse. Honestly, like, he was horrified. And so I learned the difference between the neurotic and non-neurotic directors.
It's interesting you bring up the audition process because Danny, you just have this knack for discovering new talent, whether it's Killian in 28 Days or it's Dev Patel in Slumdog Millionaire, and now Alfie. He's a revelation in this film. Did you know, like, when he was auditioning, you're like, oh no, that's the one?
He's exceptional, yeah, and he was very, very promising in the audition, wasn't he? We could see the promise. What was really extraordinary is not us uncovering a kind of talent, which is the vocabulary that's usually used around discovering new talent, but it's what he did with the opportunity. And he did it with the help of the other actors. So Aaron, in the first half of the movie, kind of gives him a kind of boot camp in action movies, which is literally, and that's not just helping him in the scenes, it's helping him how you prepare for action sequences, how you psych yourself into them so that you're at the same sustained level for each take or for each different angle or whatever like that. That was fascinating to see that. But then he changed. When he got with Jodie Comer, who plays his mom, it became quieter, stiller. He used a different kind of acting with her. And it's a process in the film that you see that and he emerges into the film in a more thoughtful way. He accepts ownership of the film. He makes his decision about whether he will follow in his father's footsteps, and then he makes his own way into what is actually a very dangerous world. But it's what teenagers do, because he's now a teenager, which is they step out and make their own decisions. And thank God that they do, really. So you have to admire him, really, and what he did with the opportunity that we gave him, really.
When y'all were crafting this movie, I was fascinated by the zombie sort of mythology in here, because it never looks fun in movies or TV shows to be undead. But this one, there's a little bit of promise there. There's a little bit of an evolution. There may be zombie hookups, kind of, maybe.
It seems to be so, yeah.
Did you guys have, I want to be a fly on the wall for those conversations between you two of like, how far can we kind of take this? Because it was really interesting to see this new level and a new layer to these things.
Well, it's 28 years later, and the infected are not supernatural. They're not reanimated dead people. They're humans that have been infected with a virus. So if the thing is still going 28 years later, somehow they need to live in the way we need to live. They need to eat, they need to drink. And so some of their evolutionary changes just come from that. If they're going to eat, what are they eating? Say they're eating deer, they're hunting them in packs. If you hunt in a pack, like a wolf, you get alphas, develop naturally out of a pack. You also get some that are not suited to hunting in packs, and so maybe they eat earthworms and slugs and beetles and berries and stuff like that, and they move more slowly. So some of it is just comes from the premise, how would this still be around in 28 years? And some of it is also just thinking about the fact that they're not really much different from us. They are people who are sick. They have an infection. So there's a character in this film who doesn't really differentiate in many crucial respects between the infected and the non-infected, partly because he's a doctor. So he sees sick people and non-sick people.